What is going on? Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. So we're live here today for the first edition of FanDuel Friday for NFL slate. That's coming this Sunday, and I got a special guest with me. Well, not a special. Well, he's a special guest, definitely for sure. But got to meet him for the first time yesterday since we're here in Chicago at the live final. TJ Zwarych, how's everything going, man? How's everything?
Doing well. Happy to be here in Chicago. It was so great to meet you last night, meet Meansy last night, meet Squirrel, meet Christy. Had a great time, made a little money on the Thursday NFL, and first ever FanDuel Friday show that's live. Feels pretty fun. I'm ready to dive into week 1 of NFL.
Yes, definitely. I'm so hyped honestly for football season. MLB's been a little bit of a dread. So I think this will be a good season this year. And I'm just hoping, we give people some good takes. And it was also good to meet you, finally in person. We're gonna have fun this weekend and just have a good time. And I also want to say good luck to you specifically in the live final today, which will take place. But first, before we get into everything, I just want to give out a quick read that we have for the NFL season show schedule here at RotoGrinders. We have a lot of jam-packed content with this season, from single entry to showdown, and everything in between. So we've got you covered here for the whole NFL season. Come follow us on your YouTube channel and on the Daily Fantasy Scores podcast feeds. This is available anywhere on any site that we have, where podcasts are available at today. And also for FanDuel, go sign up for the Sportsbook app today, and new users get $5. You just bet $5 and you can win 150 no matter what. This obviously terms and conditions apply, but check out RG Sportsbook page review for more info, where you can find out on the RG homepage, and it just pretty much will help break everything down and give you an idea of how to take down a slate, pretty much for this NFL season. And we have a whole obviously list of good guys there, as you see, from Will to a couple $1 million winners, and Chop over here, two-time $1 million winner. We got Squirrel, who's always taking down GPPs for NFL. And we got a new Bobby Gomes, who's a $1 million winner too. So come check out us, and we will definitely have everything you can offer here at RG, and sign up today. And trust me, you won't be disappointed. So before we break down this slate, just want to get an idea. What is your overview of it today? Like, from just a 30,000-foot view, how are you feeling about this today? About the slate?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm feeling a lot better about the football slate this weekend than I am feeling about tonight's MLB slate. I feel like I got a better handle on this one a little bit because, you and I have been talking a lot about kind of our NFL process, how we like to build our lineup, stuff like that. I love MMEing for baseball, but for football, that's not my jam. I'm a 3 to 5 entry max guy. I like to full stack teams, full stack games, try and come in first place and kind of hope one of those game stacks or team stacks that I do hits pretty big. And so there are a few, that's why I'm liking week 1 so much, is because there are a few QBs out here where I can already see that I can pair the QB I want to pair with 3 of his weapons, a couple guys on the other side, and start looking to fill in the rest of my lineup with either some optimal plays if they're sneaky stacks, or some sneaky plays if they're chalky stacks. And so I'm liking this first one quite a bit. I'm seeing already a little Mahomes, little Herbert, little Derek Carr with the ability to stack them with as many guys as I want and turn it into a little game stack. So I'm excited about this football slate. Baseball, man, I'm not so much.
Yeah, baseball is going to be tough today. Got a nice little 12-game slate over there. Pitching is a little suspect, but other than that, I think it should be a good one. But that's this thing you gotta love about baseball. It's the beauty of the variancy in the sports, and you have to embrace it. So when it comes to like the football side, I understand you said you got a couple QBs in mind. Like you said, Mahomes, Herbert, you were looking at. Um, what is your? I know you said your approach is typically being more aggressive with the field. Is that your approach more so in like a small field tournament, more so big field? How is that something you like to typically manage and do?
For like football more than anything else, I like to just kind of think about how do I think the game is going to go, really script the entire game as opposed to just building lineups with my favorite people in it. And so for me personally, I do like like I full stack, even if it's like 100-man entry and it's a tournament, I'm full stacking. And the reason for that is like, I'm not going to play 3 8K receivers with my quarterback. Like last year when Tyreek Hill was still on the Chiefs, I wasn't having that many stacks where I was stacking Hill, Kelsey, and another top player together. Like it was typically I'm picking one of Hill or Kelsey, mixing in the cheapies and hoping Mahomes throws a long 50-yard pass to them. And that's what I'm thinking again for this one. And so when we get lots of people wanting to play the Chargers this week, lots of people wanting to play the Chiefs, lots of people wanting to play Vegas, I don't think I have to fade those entire teams if they're going to be chalky. I just have to either go all out on them or pick the sneaky ones. So if I want to play, if I like the position that the Raiders are in this weekend, well, I'm not gonna just play Derek Carr with Devontae Adams. I'm gonna play Derek Carr with Devontae Adams, with Darren Waller, and with Hunter Renfrow. Hope that he throws 4 touchdowns and that he goes off. And what I really like about doing the full stacking is that usually if you're mixing in some 5K receivers, some below 5K receivers, some below 6K receivers, you're not that confident in those guys anyways. They could fail and you can still cash even with your cheap receivers failing. That's all good. And so if your quarterback only scores 3 touchdowns instead of 5 and your cheap receivers didn't really hit, you're still probably going to end up above that min cash line as opposed to it not working out. So I'm a big perpetrator of the full stack, full team, full game. My favorite teams to do that with this week are going to be KC, the Chargers, Vegas, and then so I like Philly and Baltimore this week a lot as well. But the thing is with Philly and Baltimore is it's a lot tougher to full stack with Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts than it is Patrick Mahomes, because these guys might go off, but they might run 2 touchdowns in. So I do like the Lamar Jackson one as well. And I think something I'm somewhat interesting doing with Lamar this week is you don't have to full stack. You never have to full stack with Lamar or Hurts, but you still can. And so what I'm thinking is we have Mark Andrews, who is without a doubt going to be the number 1 option for Lamar Jackson this year. And he's 7,900. He's in a good spot. He's among the highest priced tight ends. There's no Marquise Brown, so you're feeling good. But another player I really, really like with Lamar Jackson in week 1 and throughout the year is going to be Isaiah Likely. He's their number 2 tight end, but he's also maybe going to be the number 2 receiver this year. Like they run a lot of 2 tight end sets there in Baltimore. There's no Marquise Brown anymore. Their number 1 receiver is Bateman. Their number 2 is Devin Duvernay. Like they don't have a super strong receiving core. Obviously, it's a FanDuel show, but he's wildly cheap on DraftKings as well. This is one of my favorite guys to take a shot on this week, especially if I'm playing Lamar Jackson. I think you can run a 2 tight end lineup and play one of these guys in your flex. And if you want to fade Mark Andrews and you want to save some salary, I think you can just go with the Lamar Jackson, Isaiah Likely approach. And from the Jalen Hurts side of things, I do think you can full stack with him. I just don't think you have to when you have options like Goddard, AJ Brown, and Devontae Smith. Those are really the 3 guys I'd be looking to stick with my stack with. But I'm more okay full stacking with a running QB with Hurts this week, just because they do have more options than they have in the past. Somebody's asking in chat what are our favorite yes, I know Rashad Bateman is the is the next option over Isaiah Likely. I realize that, but he's not 4K with and so when you got a tight end who is going to get some red zone looks at 4K, I like it. Looking at the early games, we got people asking one more question, then I'm going to throw it back to you. People asking what our favorite early games are this week. I like the early games outside of the a lot more than the late ones, outside of KC, Arizona, Vegas Chargers. Those late ones are great, but I still absolutely adore getting to the Philly side against Detroit. as well as picking some Baltimore. And my favorite game stack from the early slate is going to be New Orleans and Atlanta.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I want to just go back, touch around because I guess I made a mistake because I'm thinking Isaiah Likely, the way he was playing a lot. I think in the preseason, I think he was playing a little bit outside, even though he was in this. He was playing outside along with inside, at tight end, and I thought he was going to be listed as a wide receiver. Turns out he's listed as a tight end, but I love that call. Honestly, I don't think no one's going to do that in GPPs. So to me, that's a fantastic call to like double stack Andrews and Likely. Likely is going to be a big part of that offense this year. They really really are high on him and they're looking to get him a lot of touches. So I could definitely see that 2-man stack or with Lamar Jackson. I think it's a great idea and a great way to go for sure.
I honestly think
My
Likely is my favorite tight end on the entire slate.
I agree with not my I would say he's my third favorite, maybe fourth. Because I do like Kelsey and Andrews a lot as well, but Likely is right there with them, in my opinion. And for GPPs, he's my favorite, definitely for sure, because no one's going to own him as as you see right here. It's going to be like less than a percentage own. It's not projected out that well. So unless you're really looking into it and getting, and no minds risking your lineups and playing someone like him, he's going to be low owned and not really someone who's going to be a high value target. So, but I love that call for sure. Let's get to the question first before we jump into straight quarterbacks. Like we already have a little bit. My early games, like I love the New Orleans call. I'm more so on just the New Orleans side of it. Um, I'm really interested to see what they're going to do. Like Jameis Winston, I think is a great guy. Is a great quarterback to target this week. That's not going to get that much ownership, especially on a side like FanDuel, where it is only half PPR. We have those who take that into consideration. Touchdowns matter a lot more on FanDuel versus DraftKings. Sorry to mention them, but the other site I should say maybe, but um, it's just a simple fact. Full PPR, the catches matter more here. Touchdowns are more heavily dependent on what's going to really bolt you to the top. We can see like one thing about the Atlanta defense, they they really aren't that good, but they have improved that cornerback a little bit. Um, and obviously, I'm a huge Saints fan, but I love this matchup for Jameis Winston. I think he can still take advantage of it. I hope Michael Thomas plays because my favorite receiver to pair with Jameis Winston is a guy like hopefully is like Taysom Hill at tight end. But number one is Jarvis Landry. I think Jarvis Landry is in a great spot this week, playing the slot corner, which is the weakest corner, which is the weak. I'm going against the slot corner, which is the weakest corner for Atlanta, since they have two guys on the outside that can pretty much play a lot of good single coverage. And they're yeah, they can play a lot of good single coverage today. So I definitely don't mind the Jameis Winston today. Um, and taking some shots at Atlanta. All these games to me have a potential to be kind of a shootout. Philly, Detroit is easily a shootout. I love the call. I like Hurts too, as well as you were saying. Um, my thing with Hurts though is I like playing him only with like AJ Green and Goddard. Smith, I know is obviously another good option to definitely have for sure, and I don't mind double stacking. And I think a trend this year that we're probably going to see a lot more is double stacking and probably not enough run backs. Um, Double stacking is, I think, a key way to go on any slate for football nowadays because you're trying to take down first place on, especially on these top heavy prizes where you're playing them like $4 for a million. So when you're doing double stacking gives you an advantage because, like you said, when you've won these tournaments here on FanDuel, you it was an onslaught where the point where you had like a double stack or and a run back and you knew where all the touchdowns were going and got them right and won first place by probably so much it was crazy because no one's because that trend last year it was just picking up but it wasn't as popular as it's getting now and I don't know and I still don't think the field's going to be able to keep doing that more and more so I do like the call
My
of the
my
double stack.
biggest thing with it is it really is just like it's so much easier to me for me personally to pick one game that will explode as opposed to a
Yeah.
team of 8, 10 players that will explode. And so
Hmm.
you look at a game like the Saints and the Falcons. And so on the Falcons side, like I don't want to run a full Falcon stack, but I like running it back with just Kyle Pitts. I don't really want
Yep.
to play Taysom Hill. I don't really want to play Adam Troutman. So let's run it back with Pitts on the other side. And I'm good with running Jameis because he's so cheap. I will for
Mm-hmm.
sure be playing Mike Thomas because I think he's definitely playing and he's so cheap. This is a receiver that is going to be 8 to 9K by mid-season. He's going to be priced right up there with Adam, Samuel, Chase, and Jefferson, and he's 6.3K right now. Yeah, he's been hurt, but he led the league in receiving a couple years ago. He's what I feel like a lot of people don't realize about the Saints this year is it should be an improvement to have Jameis Winston healthy over end of career Drew Brees. Even if from a gameplay, game management standpoint, it may not be an improvement, which I still think it will. For sure, it's going to be for fantasy. The last time this guy played a full season, he threw 50 touchdowns and threw for over 500 yards. Yeah, there was a ton of interceptions, but I don't care about that if I'm stacking him in DFS and he's throwing 5 touchdowns. So I love Winston with Thomas, running it back with Kyle Pitts, and then throwing in my choice of 2 of Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, and Jarvis Landry.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't love pairing my running back with my quarterback, but when it's Alvin Kamara and he might have 10 receptions for 100 yards, yeah, I love it. I'm pairing Kamara with Winston all day.
Yeah, and you can see right here, Kamara's only going to be like 9-10% owned, and I don't know if there's enough steam on him because everyone was obviously probably worried about the suspension earlier in the year, but he's only 8.5K. That's cheap. I don't trust it. I know Atlanta's got a young defense, but their line is still not better than the New Orleans Saints front line. So I like Kamara here. Kamara's just an elite back, probably the third best back in the league in my opinion because he does do it all. So I love that call for sure. I definitely also like getting a Patrick Mahomes a lot too this week, like you mentioned before. That's probably like one of the best games on the slate to target. Um, he's expensive, so a lot of people are going to be playing him. I really love playing him with everyone's going to be playing him with Kelsey, which is completely understandable and completely fine, and I don't mind that at all. But I do love pairing him also with Juju. I think Juju's going to have a big day, and that's one thing I think tend to forget too, is that Juju Smith-Schuster he did have a big year a couple of years ago. He definitely did for sure with the Steelers, and he's still only like 24, 25 years old, and he's a slot receiver. And Arizona, one thing about them that they were horrible at was covering the slot receivers, which is why Tyreek Hill was used to play a lot out of the slot. But I think Juju's in store for a big game, and it's only coming at 9% ownership. I like being doubled way more than that on the field with him, and he's only 6,400. So Juju's one of my favorite receivers, definitely to target this season, and also just this game as a whole. And running it back is just a simple too, because it's going to be a shootout with Kyler Murray. I really do like AJ Green. That's like one of my favorite receivers. I don't think no one's gonna play. He probably will pick up a little bit of steam now that we got I think Rondell Moore, I think, is doubtful to play for what we have him listed as. So, but AJ Green at 5,700 is in a prime position where he's going to have to step up and play. He'll be the number 2 option, probably, or number 3 behind Marquise Brown and the tight. Who's the tight end they have over there again?
Hurts, but he also might not be
Yeah,
playing.
Hurt. Yeah, so so he might end up being a number 2 option. So I like that. I like the targets he's going to get looked at, and the amount of touches he's going to probably see. So he can be in store for a huge game. And at 5,700, you can use that on your FanDuel lineups to try to win a lot of money today. Because all you have to do is get end zone once, maybe twice, and pay off that price, which is something that I look for him to do. A couple other quarterbacks I do like getting to today. We're getting to on Sunday. I do like Lamar Jackson. I mentioned Lamar already. Kyler Murray mentioned him.
Or actually, hold on before you continue. I just want to touch on the Mahomes point because Mahomes is one of my favorite. Like, I honestly look at it more of just like teams I want to stack as opposed to specific QBs. But the reason why Mahomes is one of my specific QBs is how you can stack them this week. I don't dislike the Juju call by any means, but I think like Travis Kelce is probably just going to be the top tight end this year by a very, very large margin because I think he's just going to get an obscene amount of targets. What I love about KC and stacking with Mahomes this week is I actually think Juju's the one I want to get the most underweight on. And it's not because I don't think he's going to be good, but I see $5,500 Valdez Scantling, $5,400 Mecole Hardman, and $4,600 Sky Moore. So I love the idea of going Sky Moore, Valdez-Scantling, and Travis Kelce. I will do all of them. I will, because of how cheap Valdez-Scantling and Sky Moore are, I will do all of them. Because if they get a couple catches at that cheap, I'm good enough to mid cash. And if they score a 50-yard touchdown, which they're speedy guys with Patrick Mahomes, so they might, that's all of a sudden how I win buttloads of money. And the reason I like doing that is because if we insert Mahomes, Moore, Valdez-Scantling, and Kelce, we throw in a random defense on our team just to kind of help see how much money we have left. And I'm looking at over 7K for my last three positions of two running backs, one receiver, and a flex. So what I love about the idea of just full team stacking with a guy like Patrick Mahomes and his wildly cheap receivers is all of a sudden now I can go and I go, oh, damn, I can play Alvin Kamara with this team. I can pay up for Jonathan Taylor in this team. And I still have above 5K for my last two positions to mix in some value. So that's my biggest reason why. And I think Patrick Mahomes is the best spot to do it with this weekend. I love just the full on stack, because if he throws five TDs, and I happen to have a long one to Valdez-Scantling or Sky Moore or Mecole Hardman, I also have a team that's going off with expensive running backs like McCaffrey, Kamara, and Taylor in my lineup with them.
And I'm not disagreeing with you on that. I get the point. I just don't trust these guys enough to get there and do that. That's the whole thing. Like maybe Valdez-Scantling a little bit, but those guys, they're to me they're fringe players. Sky Moore's a rookie. He's yet to be like. I'm just gonna have to see how he plays. I would take a few shots on him if anything. But I just think personally that it's something that's going to be hard for me personally just to get to, and want to use someone like an MVS. Sky Moore I can see, but MVS is probably I'm lower on him. I'm high. I'm just really high on Juju. I've been high on him for like all week, and it's just hard to get away from that, honestly. And I think he's going to have a breakout year and show people why he was a Pro Bowl receiver from a couple years ago. A couple other
Even
guys
if even if like if it was a different team, I'd be less likely to take shots. But just like knowing the Chiefs and how like even last year when they had Tyreek Hill there, Mecole Hardman could be a terrible play because he'd be on the field for 10% of snaps. But on those 10% of snaps, he'd be on the field. He'd have two targets for 50 yards downfield. So the Chiefs specifically are a team I like taking shots on. Of like, even if a guy may not be out there much, when he's out there, they're going to utilize his speed.
Yeah, which is nothing bad to do. It's like the lottery, and you got to take some chances, some shots somewhere, and if
The
it
Bills,
hits, it hits.
another team I love doing that with, because like think about how many times Isaiah McKenzie would randomly have a huge game last year and nobody played him because he's Isaiah McKenzie and he was like their fourth receiver, but they would run specific plays for him and he'd go off. So it's like those teams with the top QBs and strong offensive coaches, I like just messing around with the random players with them.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that at all for sure. So, let's go. I know we have a question here about Kirk Cousins and Trevor, and thoughts on Kirk Cousins and Trevor Lawrence, I believe, with run backs. Okay, so yeah, um, I love McLaurin in it this week too. I think he's gonna have a really good week. I actually like. I'm gonna put out a pick on scores. Tate's gonna scores and odds because I have a pick that is going to surprise people about that game this week. So I'll put that out in a little bit today. But I don't mind Trevor Lawrence for sure. I think Christian Kirk. Oh, I don't mind Christian Kirk at all. I don't mind that that's a run back. That's a good one. But what I would do, like you don't have to double stack it if you don't want to, but I would prefer to. That game is definitely have a shootout potential. That Commanders should get are being honestly talked about and owned a lot this week from what I'm seeing. Like this is just in the blitz projections here. Shout out to Cardi for the blitz. So this is a sneak peek. Go get it. Trust me, you won't regret it. They're 3,700 and probably one of the most cheaper defenses, but probably going to project to be one of the higher owned defenses. So I love playing that call of going with Lawrence and Kirk and a run back, or even if you want to just stack it with Lawrence, Kirk, and uh, Jones. I don't mind that at all either, or even with one of the running backs either. Um, I don't mind that at all. So I like that today, especially getting leverage against the people who are going to have the Commanders, because if the Jags end up going off and scoring a lot of points, the Commanders' defense is going to keep going down, 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 and that's a little bit of leverage right there, especially if they're going to be the highest owned defense in the contest this week. So Kirk Cousins, though, I love Kirk Cousins. I love Green Bay. I think that team. I mean, I love that game. I think the Minnesota Vikings are getting a little overlooked. Their new the new coach is a very offensive minded guy who's gonna, I think, push the ball downfield. And we've seen Kirk Cousins have big games. I love the spot for him, especially with his receivers that he has, Justin Jefferson, who is a guy that's probably going to be played, but I don't think it's going to be obviously paired with Kirk Cousins a lot like that. Obviously, Adam Thielen as well. I think it's another guy we can look at to pair with him. Um, I also do like the run backs a lot. Um, like we all know one thing about Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers loves his receivers that he can trust. And I know Alan Lazard is going to probably, I don't know if he's going to play or not. That's one thing we have to figure out. But if he does play, I don't mind taking some shots with him. He's going to be the number one receiver. I personally prefer just to go with the running backs. So for this specific game only, I want to target as much. Like what I mean as much, like even without this game and as a game sack, or some run backs, I really do want to get to a guy like like Jones, like Aaron Jones today, who's going to be since only 7.4K, and he's going to get a lot of touches, and he's going to get a lot of work not only in the passing game, but obviously in the running game as well. He's going to line up in the slot. I can see him a lot. So he's a top target of mine this week just to have on. 15% is a not enough ownership in my opinion for him to be there. But you can also go with this round as too. Go with this guy too, who's going to be on their offense a lot in AJ Dillon. AJ Dillon was a great back for them last year. Rushed the ball a ton. They were running both, and you saw last year that they were running both of them out there. So I don't mind doing that combo either. AJ Dillon's another underrated guy that you're going to get at 6.1K for probably sub 10%, maybe even sub 5%. But he's going to definitely get a lot of.
AJ Dillon is a guy that was on my lineup last year when I won a few hundred K. He was on my biggest lineup
Yep,
I've ever had. They ran 2 running back sets. I was reading a tweet this morning.
a
They ran
lot.
2 running back sets more than any other team last year. And
Yep.
if Alan Lazard is to miss this game, that's their plan to counteract that, is not loading in another receiver who isn't great. It's just playing more of these same 2 running backs who are so fantastic. And another player on this team that they said they're going to be running up a lot at receiver this year as well is Robert Tonyan. And Tonyan has the
Yes.
questionable tag still, but he's 5.1K. They're expecting him to play, and he's super
Hmm.
cheap. So I love the running
And
backs for this team too. And another player I love, Romeo Dubes. This is a guy that's a rookie, and Aaron Rodgers doesn't like rookies. That's kind of
mhm,
factual. The last rookie he's ever had that he's
mhm.
talked up and he's targeted was Devonte Adams. And Romeo Dubes is somebody he's been comparing to Devonte Adams all camp, and just about how much he loves this guy. So at 5K and nobody playing him too much, Romeo Dubes is a guy that I really like and like getting to this week, especially if Alan Lazard doesn't play and Christian Watson is going to play, but he's been banged up as well. So Lazard is somebody I like quite a bit, and I'm with you. I really like the running backs for this team. Minnesota, I don't really think I love a full stack of Minnesota. Like, Jefferson's great. He's somebody that honestly I've been, like, everybody in the world seems to be more overweight on Justin Jefferson this year than I am. To me, him going 3rd overall or even 2nd overall in a lot of season-long drafts just seem pretty crazy to me. I'd rather get Eckler. I'd rather get Kupp. I think I'd even rather get Jamar Chase. So I am in the minority there. I'm not super high on Minnesota because they got some high prices. I honestly think I like the KJ Osborne and Herb Smith Jr. people more there, but I do really like this Green Bay side. What do you say, just kind of before we begin running out of time here? We talk specifically just running backs, because we've talked a lot
Yes,
about stacks and quarterbacks and tight
and
ends, and
wide
that
receivers.
exactly. When we talk about our stacks and our QBs, it lends us to talking about tight ends and receivers anyways. So I feel like the people know who we like most at those positions already. But what are your thoughts at running back on FanDuel today? Because I think we got Jonathan Taylor and Christian McCaffrey. They're priced up. They're both projected as the two highest running backs on slate. You also got Derrick Henry in a cake matchup, Austin Eckler in a high scoring matchup, Alvin Kamara in a cake matchup. We got a lot of good high priced running backs this week. How is that going to factor into your strategy?
Yeah, that's going to be a big part. Like I'm trying to find ways to get a lot of JT in my lineup. That matchup against
Mm-hmm.
Houston is just too good. It's just way too good to pass up on. Christian McCaffrey, we know he can do it on either side, full PPR, half PPR, just from the catches in the backfield. And Baker Mayfield, we'll throw passes to him. So that's something I don't have to really worry about. And he can run the ball in between the tackles. Giants defense is not really, they're young. One thing about the Giants, they always have to have somewhat of a decent defense, but all it takes is one run for Derrick Henry to go big. So I don't mind taking him, but he's probably like going to be down the list for me. I love that mid range that we were talking about earlier a little bit, like Alvin Kamara, Joe Mixon, Swift. I even like Najee Harris a lot too, even with his Liz Frank injury that he's kind of dealing with a little bit. And Dalvin Cook, like this mid range is going to get overlooked, I think, a little bit. But outside of guys like Saquon, so I know I'm gonna try to be like around there as much as I possibly can, around the 7K range, 8K. James Conner as well is another good one I like too. So I want to try to be targeting those guys a lot more than normal. And even a guy like Eli Mitchell as well too. So it's just it's loaded, like you said. It's loaded at running back, but I love obviously the top end guys, but I just also want to try to make sure I get to that mid range where it's going to be a lot less owned.
Yeah, I'm with
What
you
about
there.
you?
And I honestly think this is just a week that I do not want to be spending aggressively down at running back whatsoever. We got some guys like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Chase Edmonds, Damian Pierce, who project decently well and they're nice and cheap. And a lot of them I like for season long. Like another guy I really like for season long is Raheem Mostert, Jamal Williams, Andre Stevenson, kind of backup RB2s, maybe guys who are going to play on third down. Today's not the day to play them. Week one, we got a lot of really, really good running backs in really good matchups. And so I don't think I want to be taking shots on guys like CH, Chase Edmonds, Alec Pierce. That's not going to be me in week one. Because I think the only like cheapest running back I'm going to be looking to go to will be AJ Dillon. I don't think there's an issue with taking a shot on Travis Etienne, but I actually think I like him more as like a pass catcher stack as opposed to like a straight running back. I'd almost rather play him with
Mm-hmm.
Lawrence. The Swift, Jones, Antonio Gibson, Saquon Barkley, Eli Mitchell, that range I don't mind, and I actually like kind of all of those players, but I just don't think salary wise I'm gonna end up getting there. Like I just think I just think that it's going to end up being a type of day where I'm stars and scrubsing, and my stars are going
Mm.
to be my running backs, and my scrubs are going to be my receivers and my tight end. And so I like Antonio Gibson quite a bit in that mid range. I like both Packers running backs. Nick Chubb is super cheap, but I honestly think the majority of my spend ups at today on the whole slate will be Taylor, Henry, McCaffrey, Kamara, Eckler, Mixon. Like I'm going to be sticking with that expensive running back tier and running with these cheap receivers.
Question. So CEH, I think he's gonna get a lot of work. So I don't know why are you not high on him like that, especially in that game environment where it's gonna be a really high game, really high scoring game.
So I'm very bullish on Isaiah Pacheco this year.
Okay.
I think he's
All right,
going
that
to
makes
get their
sense.
receiving work. I think he throughout the year is eventually going to get some running work as well. But I think he's basically going to be their third down back from the first game of the season on. And we just see the Chiefs so often just like rotation guys in all the time. Like they don't really have, they're almost kind of like old school Patriots that way, where they don't
Yeah.
really have one running back they leave in for 80% of the snaps. And so I think we're going to see a lot of CEH. I think we'll see a little Ronald Jones, but I think we're going to see a lot of Isaiah Pacheco as well. And so with all these beautiful, expensive running backs we have, I'm going to play the not chalky Chiefs cheap receivers when I want to play my Chiefs and just hope it's Mahomes passing it as opposed to running the ball in. And then I'm going
Hmm.
to be paying up for these running backs.
And then another one that I had too for you, Etienne. Like the talk around, obviously he's healthy, and he's gonna be back. But then we also got to worry about James Robinson, who's the same price and was the main back for years before Etienne was even there. You're not worried about that situation at all because I personally like James Robinson a lot, and I think he'll be the number one back, um, probably even come the first week of the season.
So I kind of like Etienne long term, but that's why I mentioned like I almost like him better as a stack with Trevor Lawrence because I think he's going to be a running back this year that gets 8 targets. Like I think he's going to get 10 to 15 like 15 touches a game, but half of them will be
Huh?
through the air. And
Okay.
so on a slate like this, where he's going to be more than 10% owned, I'm not playing ATN today. But long term throughout the year, I don't mind him. I think Robinson and ATN are both going to get a lot of touches. Like I think in season long, if you're in a 12-team league, Robinson should be owned as well, and like both of them should be rostered.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that 100%. I do Dalvin Cook. I know you don't not hiring that game, but I do like that a lot too as well. Austin Eckler, I think is also. You mentioned him. He's going overlooked, and I think the last time he played this team, he went off. He had a monster game. Why, like only 8% on a 94K? He has just as high as upside as these guys in Chris McCaffrey and Henry and Jonathan Taylor. Are you going to be overweight on him at the field with him majority?
So, given that I'm probably only going to be playing like 3 to 5 teams, I'll
Uh
definitely
huh.
be over the field because I can guarantee you I will have Austin Eckler. This
Okay.
game is probably my favorite to mix and match different ways and do the full on game stack. So, my lineup will have Austin Eckler and it will also have Keenan Allen or Mike Williams, depending on how much money I have left. I like Keenan Allen better because since he's more expensive, he's coming in lower owned. However, if Mike Williams is the only guy I can afford, I will have him in there. What I love doing with this game is I like playing Austin Eckler, one of the Chargers receivers, and I want to run them with Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow, Waller, as well as Derek Carr. Now, the Waller one I don't love because he is expensive. Like he's 7K on this slate, and we got some cheaper tight ends, and we're wanting to pay up at running back today. So Waller is the one guy in my stack that I'm thinking I might leave off, but I love going full Vegas stack and then just running it back with Eckler on the other side. So if you on FanDuel, if you go Carr, Adams, Renfro, Waller, Eckler, you're left with 5,400 per position. You fire in a cheap defense in there, a random one. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
click somewhere in the 3K range. And then you throw in the cheaper of the two receivers, Mike Williams. And once again, we have over 6K for our running back and flex spot. So we can get creative and still get some good players in there. So Austin Eckler is a guy I like quite a bit, but it will be, I can guarantee, in a lineup that I also have a lot of Oakland players because I love projecting shootouts and playing Eckler because he's game
Mm-hmm.
script proof. He's game script proof. If they're winning, he's going to run the ball a ton. If they're losing, he's still going to catch the ball a ton out of the backfield. So I love me some Austin Eckler, and I agree with Maria Don Yeezy in the chat right now talking about Gerald Everett, nice and cheap. Everett is a tight end that I like quite a bit this week. On FanDuel, we're not getting quite the same discount on him, so I don't love him there, but I do like some Gerald Everett in this new offense, replacing Jared Cook. Realistically, he's probably going to be the third, like he's going to be fighting with Eckler for the third most targets on the team this year, I think.
Yeah, I completely see that for sure. So don't mind that at all. And everything else you mentioned, I do agree with you. And that's one thing I think also you need to mention too. Targeting these running backs that are kind of matchup proof is probably a smart way to go and try to do more so this season, I think, than ever. Because you don't want the guy to get game script out. And most running backs nowadays need to have both passing ability, pass catching ability, as well as being able to run in between the tackles. Let's move on to wide receiver real quick, though. I know we touched on a lot of guys we like in stacks, but what are some of these one-offs that you do like that you don't mind taking some shots on Sunday?
For sure. So Devonte Adams, I think, is going to be my favorite guy on the board. I like him in stacks. I like him as a one-off. The Chargers, the receivers, I think are guys I'd rather play in stacks, but I do like them quite a bit. Marquise Brown, I think, is going to be interesting with all the receivers. Hurts against KC. Baltimore kind of underused him a little bit last year, and so I think he's quite interesting as well. Brandon Cooks, wouldn't want to be stacking Houston, but I don't mind Cooks as a one-off against the Colts. Amon-Ra St. Brown is another great young receiver who looked really good last year playing Philly. We talked about liking stacking some Philly guys. I don't mind running it back with Amon-Ra St. Brown. And then for me, I'm really going to be looking a lot at these cheap guys, sub 6K, Hunter Renfrow, Christian Kirk. Those are going to be your chalky guys. I have nothing against them, but I think we can get just as high of upside players at nowhere near as much ownership. So we're talking the Jarvis Landrys, the Marquez Valdez Scantlings, the Jacoby Myers, guys like that. Even these Green Bay receivers like Sammy Watkins, Romeo Dubes. I think you can take shots on them as well. So for me, I'm going to be looking at a lot of these cheap receivers, even if I'm not in a stack to play as a one-off. Even as we keep scrolling down this list, I'll play some George Pickens for Pittsburgh. He's somebody that's looked really good in camp and preseason. I'll play some KJ Osborne, the wide receiver 3 for Minnesota against Green Bay. Maybe they have a strategy where all they care about is just making sure Justin Jefferson doesn't beat them. And so KJ Osborne's getting a ton of looks. Romeo Dubes, Chris Olave. I'm going to be wanting off and stacking a lot of these cheap receivers.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you on that because I think a couple of these cheap receivers can definitely go off on Sunday. Sammy Watkins might be one of my favorite ones, just for the simple fact of we already know he's not going to get a lot of work late in the season. But he has a tendency for the past couple of years of having that one big game, and it either comes like week 1 or week 2. So Sammy Watkins is one of my favorite.
Especially if Alan Lazard doesn't play.
Yeah, he's gonna get so much targets. It's gonna be ridiculous, and he could be someone I think that everyone still overlooks for the Green Bay Packers. Even with Lazard being out, and he ends up going off. I can see that, so I definitely don't mind that for sure.
That's somebody that I think,
Boyd,
like, if you're looking to play, like, if you do want to play Dalvin Cook on this slate, I think you run an Aaron Rodgers full stack to pair Dalvin Cook with. Like,
and no
Sammy Watkins, Romeo Dubes, and Robert Tonyan, the most expensive one on FanDuel is $5,500. So if you get a vintage Aaron Rodgers game and he throws a bunch of TDs, you could be sailing with a lot of high-priced players to pair with those guys.
Exactly, and I definitely agree with that. So I don't mind that at all. And no one is going to play Aaron Rodgers a lot this week, if really any. So, and we saw what he did last year, week 1, and surprised a lot of people. So I can definitely see that happening again. I do like Tyler Boyd here a lot in this spot against Pittsburgh. I like the second. I like Jamar Chase. I think can have a big game, but these secondary receivers like Boyd and T. Higgins, I think, are in great spots as well. AJ Green's, I mentioned him before, is one of my favorite guys in the stack in this below 6K range. Chase Claypool as well. I like him a lot. I think this is any quarterback is better than Big Ben is last year. So I think Claypool has a chance to resurrect career a little to show that he's still a great receiver. Um, Hunter Renfro, you mentioned before. I know he's going to be a little bit popular, but I don't think he's still getting enough. I think he's still getting overlooked. Um, we have to. I think we tend to forget how creative this head coach is for the Raiders because he's been with the Patriots, but he was the offensive coordinator for the Patriots for a reason, and he utilizes every weapon he had. Wes Walker, he reminds. I feel like Hunter Renfrow is going to be a much better version of a Wes Walker in that type of system when Wes Walker was on the Patriots. Um, I really, really, really like that a lot. So I'm gonna be targeting Hunter Renfrow a lot along with Adams. I don't mind that call. I see
I'm
Don
with you.
Beasley
I
as
think
another guy.
Oakland is going to have a very, very concentrated, very concentrated offense this year. Like, I think it's going to be all Adams, all Waller, and all Renfro.
I agree.
Questions about if we're going to play Rondale
You.
Moore. Apparently, he's not going to be playing this week. He's currently listed as
Doubtful.
doubtful. I do think.
career.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, we're running pretty low on time here. We got tons and tons of shows today. We've talked quite a bit about tight end already, just because we like a lot of these cheap guys in our stacks, but we also like Kelsey and Andrews up top. Before we get out of here, let's quickly run through defense before we pass it along to these other great shows we have going, because right now the defensive chalk it looks like we're gonna have is the Commanders, the 49ers, and the Colts. To me, if I'm going to play one of the chalky defenses, the Colts are my favorite of that group by a long shot. But this is defense. Don't play any of them. What do you think?
I'm not playing any. I like 49ers, if anything, out of all of them. That's my favorite. But I'm going to be honestly high on the Saints. Saints is probably my number one defense overall this week. I'm going to probably get so much over the field on them and just hope that they play well. They have someone to lead at every single level. I think they're the best defense overall in the league. And yeah, that's who I'm playing. I'm not going to really stress it too much. It's because that's the most variable position I think on this slate, honestly, and that's going to be what determines you if you're going to win or not.
Exactly. And so
I think we should get some questions.
Agree. We'll hit those quick. I'll say it. Saints are my favorite defense on the season. If I'm paying up at D, I love the Ravens and the Saints this week. I personally am a type of person where I usually just pick one of the bottom defenses and just hope for the best. And so my favorite teams to do that with this week, I think I would maybe even take a shot on somebody like I think you can take a shot on Pittsburgh, even though they're facing a good team. They could get they're a team that could get a lot of sacks. Sorry. The Jacksonville Jaguars against Washington, picking the other side of that game, I think is very interesting. And then I think the Bears are interesting against San Fran as well. I think Trey Lance could throw a few picks in that one.
I definitely agree with you. I love the Jacksonville Jaguars call for sure. But let's open up some questions real quick since I know we're like I said, running out of time a little bit. Anyone got any questions? Feel free. We'll give you about a few minutes to drop them in there, and then if not, we'll get out of here. Yeah. But while people are dropping their questions, got a quick question for you. So, overall, let's give you your top 3 players in each positions from wide receiver, running back, and tight end and QB.
Love it. So I'll start at QB. My 3 favorites are going to be Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Jameis Winston.
Okay. All right. QB for me, it's going to definitely be Lamar Jackson. I'm going to probably say Jameis Winston as number 2. And my third one is a tough third one, but I'm probably going to have to say a guy like Kyler Murray, just because I love the pairing with AJ Green today. Running back?
Running back today, this is a spend up position for me. I'm not messing around with these cheap guys. Cheapest I'm going on FanDuel is maybe some AJ Dillon, but my favorite guys at this position today, I'm paying up. It's Taylor, it's McCaffrey, and it's Kamara. Eckler maybe over McCaffrey.
Okay, I personally got JT today. It's my top favorite. I like AJ Dillon a lot. That's my second, and the third is going to be Alvin Kamara.
I
All
love
right,
it.
and moving on to wide receiver, your top three wide receivers.
So I'm going to be going in the cheap range today. I'm going to be going out of my way to try and make sure I have a lineup that has that has Taylor, McCaffrey, and Kamara in it this weekend. And so in order to do it, I'm going to have to be paying down for these receivers. So don't get me wrong. I love Devontae Adams up top. He's my favorite up top. Mid-tier favorite one is going to be Keenan Allen in that 7K range. But my top receivers on the board for this week are going to be taking shots on cheap ones. And so my favorite guys on the board are going to be Hunter Renfrow. And just like, honestly, this is the position I'm least confident about because I'm just taking random shots. So my favorite is Mike Thomas. My favorite overall is Mike Thomas. I like the Hunter Renfrows, the Rashad Batemans, but I'm going to be playing a very uncomfortable amount of some of these Chiefs receivers like Valdez Scantling, Sky Moore, and Mecole Hardman, as well as some of these cheap Green Bay Packers wide receivers.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. Like this receivers is too much. It's a lot that I like a lot here, but I'm gonna give you some cheap options because we all know who to play up top. Juju Smith is gonna be one of my favorites as far as here in the lower range. I love getting the Jarvis Landry well over the field. And AJ Green, those are like my top three like low end spends that I love to get significantly over the field on this week for sure. And a guy I also like Brandon Cooks as well, who's just David. We got to just start talking about Davis Mills a little bit, maybe in a couple of weeks if he continues to play well like he did last year, towards the end of the season, especially with Brandon Cooks there. But yeah, let's move on to tight end quick.
The top plays here are Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, and Kyle Pitts. It is what it is. Those are the top plays. Kelce is my favorite one. Dallas Goedert is a very strong play as well. Personally, I like my favorite one for GPPs is going to be Isaiah Likely.
Yeah, my top three is likely Andrews, and it's going to be Kelce today. So that's really who I like a lot today, and
keep in mind
not
too
gonna
with
really
tight
mess
end though,
around.
like we're gonna have to wait really until the end of we're gonna have to decide close to lock what you want to do here because you got George Kittle questionable, Zach Ertz questionable,
He's
Logan
not
Thomas
playing.
questionable, Robert Tonyan questionable. Like you're gonna have potential cheap options here too.
Yeah, and I personally don't think George Kittle's playing today, so I'm counting him out as a practice all week. It's normally not a good sign of a guy that's going to play. Um, Defense, I know we really touched on that last, but I say just take a shot on whoever you want. But my overall
Oh, there
defense,
it is.
number one defense I'm going to play is going to be the Saints.
There you go. I'm not sure if it was you or me who cut out for a second there, but I got you back. Dre loves the Saints. Saints and Ravens are my favorite pay up, but I like going to the in the cheap range as well here and taking some shots on Jacksonville and the Bears.
Yes, definitely. So that's it for today's show. If no one has any more questions, we want to say good luck to everyone. Give us a like and leave some questions or comments. And TJ, I know you're going to be in a tournament today, focusing on MLB. So I want to say good luck. I will definitely see you in a bit. For that, I hope you definitely take it down. If not, someone from RG takes it down and win a lot of money. But also, just want to say, we're gonna get out of here and hope everyone has a good day. And where can they also find you on these social medias?
TJ underscore Zwarych 5 on all the social medias. This has been a fun show again to do it live. Looking forward to linking back up with you tonight. And yeah, thanks. I'm looking forward. It's an exciting prospect. I'm working hard to just like treat it like an absolute normal baseball slate. and I'm not going to look at any NFL content the rest of the day. I'm not going to touch that till tomorrow now, and really just start. I'll lock myself in my hotel room here for the next few hours and start building some lineups.
Yes, and that's one thing I can definitely say. Just focus and treat like a normal regular slate, just from experience, and you'll do well. Trust me. And just embrace the variance, and the volatility in it. But I also want to say, you can find me on Drizzy26_DFS on Twitter, Drizzy26 on Instagram, and also pay attention today and throughout the whole weekend to our RotoGrinders Instagram. I'm taking over this whole weekend. I will be giving away a couple things. I'm giving away about a month free subscription to RG. If you go and everything like that. So pay attention today for the follow, and give this video a like and give the page a like. And for me, Jersey 26, Andre, and TJ, we're out of here. Have a good one.